Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
My final guest this week is Ben Hurley, the CEO of NDRC. Ben will be discussing the supports which NDRC can provide to early-stage digital companies. But first, what is NDRC?
Well, I suppose first and foremost, NDRC is an investor in digital entrepreneurship. It's a bit of a different investor nonetheless. We invest at a very, very early stage in companies and ventures, what we describe as being a pre-seed stage, where they're not really ready for commercial investment, but we nonetheless see great prospect in those companies, and we think they can get there with the right kind of supports.
I understand that only about 10% of applicants to NDRC actually secure a place. Therefore, what eligibility or selection criteria is applied when choosing new companies?
Yeah, it is highly competitive to get access to our investment, and the kind of things we're looking for are things that are kind of fundamental to any early stage business. Beginning with, first of all, do they really understand a problem that some customer base has and that is worth solving? And really, being able to articulate those things from their end customer point of view and decide and be clear on what problem they're solving is a very, very important start point. You might find that a bit unusual because a lot of people tend to kind of start with a solution or lead with a solution. But our belief is very much that customer insight, knowing what the customers really want, knowing what problem you're solving, is what leads you to a much more stronger and well-positioned solution. In addition to that, we do want to have a sense that they can actually build a solution, that the problem is a solvable problem and that the team that's there can do that. And that overall it's going to address a very large-scale global market. So the opportunity has to have over time the globally scalable potential to address many millions of revenues over the years.
So NDRC works with early-stage digital companies, but specifically, Ben, what characterizes the businesses which you work with?
I suppose to begin with, they'd probably be digital technology would be the heart of them. So we're focusing on companies that have a technology focus rather than just a trading focus. For example, in the e-commerce space or in the retail space, we tend to focus on e-commerce technology rather than focusing on a trading e-commerce company or an e-commerce website. And I think that's important. So again, companies that might deliver in support at the back end to tradesmen that are, for example, invoicing and quotation management. We've invested in one of those companies quite recently down there in Waterford, a company called Paydaid. That'd be an example of a company that has, technology at its heart rather than a trading company as such. We're also looking for companies that, have spotted an opportunity for a business model innovation, so a new way of doing business that can render a very new successful and maybe leapfrogging other ways of delivering services out there in the marketplace. And then the third space, I suppose, is into companies that have some sort of deep intellectual property. And these kind of companies would frequently come from the research base or maybe even coming from corporates and they're spinning out with some intellectual property or deep domain insight. In terms of kind of areas, we cover everything from healthcare to entertainment to fintech, right through to enterprise software as a service, food and agri-tech. So very broad range of sectors or domains.
And once a company has been successful in securing a place with NDRC, what happens next?
Well, our investment model is to invest a modest amount of capital with a lot of hands-on expertise as well. So as soon as the investment goes in, it's down to business and getting down to business fast because the whole approach we take is very much to accelerate the process of the development of the company. And we're typically giving them somewhere between 3 and 6 months to get their concept validated in the marketplace. So it is very much about getting down to business and actually beginning with that question of, well, what's the problem you're looking to solve and what customers are you addressing and what validation do you have from those customers that this is something that they want addressed. So customer discovery is the start point of any activities with our ventures.
And as the needs of businesses continually evolve, how has the programme changed since its foundation back in 2007?
Yeah, well, we've learned a lot ourselves in the 10 years since 2007 in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And I think rather than, the advice we have for companies now is rather than trying to cover everything at once, focusing on what's important, namely making sure that the business is looking to solve the right problem, that's a very, very important thing to do. So taking it through a staged process of discovering your customer, using the understanding you get to that discovery, using the data points you're getting from your customers that indicate that this is definitely something they think worth solving, using that to inform your next step. So really, I think the changes have been about helping companies further, faster, and with less cost. And that helps reduce the risk for all parties involved as well. So much more focused in terms of getting them investor ready in that manner.
And in terms of success stories, has NDRC worked with any companies that subsequently achieved substantial or international growth?
Well, no, it has been our privilege now to work with a lot of companies over the years, and quite a few of those have gone on to becoming very, very successful internationally. I'll give you a few examples here, perhaps. Silver Cloud Health in the mental health care space. That company we first invested in a number of years back, but has since gone on to penetrate 40% of the National Health Service in the UK in terms of the online delivery of mental health care. And that's a phenomenal outcome from a company that was started only a number of years back. Since then, they've gone on now to expand in the US as well. So that's one company that closed an investment round of about $8 million about 18 months ago or so. Another company that has grown very, very quickly as well, and it's in the food science space, is Nuritas. This company came up with a new approach to discovering functional foods, or peptides, we might call it. And these functional foods are ingredients that go into cosmetics or into nutritional food supplements and so on. And that company, again, has grown very, very significantly with international partnerships throughout the world. There's been several companies also in the automotive mobility space, which is really about the future of automotive transport and driverless cars, and also about shuttle services and so on. So the likes of Good Travel Software and indeed iCabby are trading internationally in that space as well. We've also got strong success in the media space, with NewsWhip being a company that secured its first investment, in fact, from the US a number of years back, and has since gone on to identify for production, for publishers and for brands, where their content is resonating and where they're having impact through their content and engagement with their customers.
Now, if you've just tuned in, I'm speaking to the CEO of NDRC, Ben Hurley. Ben, looking at other measures of success, how many of the alumni secured investment following their engagement with NDRC? Yeah,
it's a good measure of success there. And over 50% of our ventures have secured some kind of funding after our investment in them. I suppose the key metric from our point of view is the ones that secure follow-on investment. And follow-on investment is third-party investment capital coming from angel investors, venture capital, and so on. And that has climbed to 150 million at this stage in NDRC-backed ventures. And, in addition to that, I suppose that's a very, very important indicator, because it shows that the quality of the ventures coming out are proving attractive to next-stage investors. But it also kind of gives you a sense for what the overall market capital value of those ventures might be. And that's growing north of 400 million at this stage. So there are two other very important measures of success for our investment in those businesses.
Now, the reputation which NDRC has earned has resulted in international companies applying for the programme in Ireland. Typically, what is the source for the majority of the international applications?
Well, I think by virtue of our international reputation, I think quite recently we were ranked as the number one university business accelerator incubator in Europe as well. Quite a few of them have come from Europe as a consequence of that. And that's right across Europe, the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe as well. But we've actually had quite a few from the Asia-Pacific region as well. And indeed, one of them from that region is on a Dublin cohort with us here recently as well. Interestingly, over 60% of the ventures that we've invested in Waterford in our NDRC at Arc Labs partnership are coming from, are relocating to Waterford from other locations. In addition, we've also had ventures come from the USA and Canada.
Now, following its initial success in Dublin, operations have expanded domestically to Galway and Waterford and internationally to Oman. Why did NDRC select Muscat as an international location, and does the programme differ in any material way from those offered in Irish locations?
Well, interesting question. Yeah, it was more a case that Oman or Muscat selected NDRC on the basis of our reputation rather than the other way around. But I think the reason why we found it an interesting proposition, an interesting opportunity, is that there was good alignment between their intent and our history as such. So their intent, it's quite an entrepreneurial nation as well, quite an open nation in many senses as well. The culture there is certainly something that resonates a bit with us as Irish people. So they were all important things, but they were making a step in the right direction of trying to foster a new ecosystem for themselves as well. And this is something that has been very strong within NDRC's history. It's been the fostering of a startup ecosystem that works on a national basis. I think that's actually what's coming through too in terms of our expansion into Waterford, and that's been important. Waterford and Galway, and in fact, one of the pleasurable things about this is that as a Munster man, I have managed to get us down into both Munster and also go west indeed as well. But again, this has always been about establishing the right kind of partnerships with the local operators and looking to develop from there.
Are there any plans in place to bring NDRC to more domestic or international locations in the future?
Well, we're always open to considering opportunities, but we also feel that it's important in this space because a lot of this runs on trust and brand and reputation and track record. It's also important to allow time for deeper partnerships to develop rather than scattergun everywhere. And internationally, I think we found a good partner, and we'll see what we learn as well. Indeed, in terms of working in an international context and bringing what we do to an international stage. And then in terms of on the domestic or the national scheme, we feel we've got the country quite well covered for the present time and are really focused on building those local connections further and building the partnership with Waterford over the next period of time.
And Ben, from your experience, what would you deem to be the biggest obstacle for digital startups in Ireland at present?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because they encounter so many obstacles. The one is the one that is the biggest one. Typically the way we advise them is to overcome the ones that are simplest to overcome first, because and least costly to overcome, because if you can't overcome the least costly ones, then there's no point in going any further. But really getting their message honed and clear for next stage investment is critical, and that is about making sure they're addressing the right problem, making sure their solution will fit within their customer base, and showing some traction so they're properly positioned to attract seed investment.
And if you could add one additional service to NDRC, which you believe would benefit digital companies, what would it be?
We have a range of offerings at present, and they kind of span the phases of development of an idea. So our core focus is that pre-seed investment that I've been speaking about, which is where we put a modest amount of capital together with a lot of hands-on expertise into companies and get them seed investor ready in the space of about 3 to 6 months. But we also go a little bit earlier stage than that at times into a space we term pre-acceleration, and here we're helping teams to articulate an idea even before we consider investing in that. Sometimes this is ideas coming from the research base where it would help them get further commercialization funding for their research and ultimately might emerge for something for NDRC to invest in. And sometimes it's with kind of focus in the fintech or the health tech spaces. The other area in which we'd be very keen to kind of explore opportunities is always looking at how you extend the runway for ventures as well. Looking at that is something that would be an interesting space as well.
Explain that concept to us.
As you build a venture, you're starting off with your pre-seed investment that you might get from NDRC. You're then preparing yourself for the next stage of investment that can be a fairly significant challenge. So looking at that gap between you being seed investor ready and you actually closing a seed round, that's an area in which we're always looking to see what else can be done.
Now, one area that is becoming more and more important for entrepreneurs is the ability to go out and fundraise. How important is that skill today?
I think it's a very important skill, and it's multifaceted. In the first instance, it's not like selling a pig in a poke. You have to have something of substance that will attract investment. Part of it then is understanding, well, what are investors looking for? And not every business is suitable for venture capital investment. Not every business is ready for lending either, right? So it's kind of understanding what your target for funds will expect of you, understanding what your need is for funds, where you're going to apply it, and most importantly, understanding where it's going to get you. Because any investor is looking for a return on whatever investment they might put in the business, and they're investing on the basis that the business will achieve and accomplish things, and that those achievements will actually propel the business to some important milestone, whether that's break-even, profitability, or some sort of buyout, or whatever it is you're looking at. So, yes, you're right, it is an important skill set, but it is a multifaceted skill set, and it's one that we would be working with people with on a regular basis as well.
And Ben, as you know, there's been lots of disruption to the finance market in recent years, especially with the emergence of crowdfunding. How relevant and important is crowdfunding today, and where do you see it going into the future?
Yeah, another interesting development in the ecosystem, and it can serve a purpose and serve a role. It has both positives, and then there's questions and challenges posed by it as well, because venture investment isn't for the faint-hearted in any respect. But having said that, you have ventures like How's My Dog, which did a very successful crowdfunding fundraise during the course of last year. And it's interesting, that is a venture that was targeting a business-to-consumer type play. So I think that's where crowdfunding kind of comes into play, where there is a good synergy between the nature of the business and the offering of the business, and tapping into a crowd-funded opportunity rather than an institutional-funded opportunity.
And finally, if any of our listeners are operating an early-stage digital company and are interested in applying for a place with NDRC, how can they go about it?
Well, I think the best protocol is to go to our website. That's www.ndrc.ie. There's quite a bit of material there, including signposts for how you build your startup. Also, we cover everything that we offer on the website there, and also how to apply. And at any point in time, the activities that are open for application will be available on that website. So it's a very much a place to watch and see what's going on. And also you can contact us directly through the website and arrange for a business hour session or discussions.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.